you, we knew that Cooper DeJean could be moved just about anywhere. We've seen him mostly in the slot. That's very interesting how they're going to use him. The cornerback competition overall, I think, is going to be the most interesting thing in training camp.
I'm not sure it's a good thing. And maybe we'll bring in Brookie.
Yeah, let's go to Bob because I don't want to hit a break if we only have a couple minutes with Bob. Let's bring in Bob Brookover now. He joins us on Birds 365.
There he is.
Bob, welcome to the show, man.
There's a pro. They moved it up, so we're going to get you out of here quick.
I'm not sure that they're not doing interviews right now. They might have changed it.
Yeah. I got a race down there as well, so I'm with you. I'm in the same boat, so we'll get you out of here as quickly as possible. Weird start, but we were talking about John Ross. I think John Ross has arguably been the best receiver on this team after AJ and Devontae, and I'm not sure that's a good thing to think that.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be one of the interesting competitions, that number 3 wide receiver. I'm in a camp where I would even like them to give a longer look to Britton Covey because
I'm with you.
He's such a twitchy guy, and but I think maybe that's what you've seen in John Ross. And yesterday was the first chance I really got a chance to look at him in 7-7s, and just the twitchiness. I mean, he caught a ball. It was no more than a 2-yard pass beyond the line of scrimmage, but his quick inside move, it was like you could tell that I forget who the defender was, but he was running away from him so quick. Now who knows, but obviously I never want to put too much stock in 7-7s or OTAs or mandatory games. But I see what you're saying, John.
Yeah, he can definitely move. I mean, there's no question about that. But I mean, you see some of the rust at times. He had a chance to catch one the other day where he only got 1 foot down. Hopefully that, as he starts to get back into it, that stuff will even out. But I'm a little bit concerned.
To your point, though, too, is that a bad thing? I guess, my question is, and Paris Campbell, because I've looked at him the last 2 years because he was with the Giants last year. If he could have that season that he had the year before in Indy in 2022, I guess he had 600 yards receiving. That's exactly what the Eagles would want from that number 3 wide receiver. Probably not going to happen that many yards. I just don't think it's a great concern because now you have Saquon in the mix. There's only so many times you can throw the football. It's good. I'd like to see them have a good slot receiver, which they haven't had for a while. But
Dallas factors in that as well. I mean, Dallas Goedert seems to be having a very good camp, and he's one of those guys that's just rock solid. You never really talk about Dallas Goedert because he's just good, and it, and you move on, and you say who's going to be the second tight end and things like that. But the offense as a whole, Brookie, you bring up. And I try to do this every day and bring up the context, and it's 7-on-7s, and the offensive line isn't involved. Kellen Moore loves play action. A couple of guys were talking about that. That's not involved. You don't have the threat of Saquon running the football. That's not involved. That makes it a lot easier for the defense. All of that context, though, the offense hasn't looked good. There are no splash play. There's got to be something in 7-on-7s. It's supposed to be an offensive tilted drill.
Yeah, it is. And Jalen's tried some deep balls that haven't been successful. Other than dunk passes, you really haven't seen a lot. You've seen some decent plays over the middle. But yeah, I mean, how much is that is they're still just getting acquainted with Kellen Moore's system? I don't know. You really got to see it in training camp, and even more so preseason, and even more so as AJ Brown pointed out. We can say this. We can say the chemistry is good now. We can say the chemistry is good in training camp, and we can say the chemistry is good in preseason. None of it matters. So the bullets are real, and you're out on the field for games to count. It doesn't. How they look September 6th in Brazil is what matters, and until I see that. It's really hard to form any kind of opinion about anything.
Bob, what's your takeaways? You've now had 4 chances to see this team in the offseason, 2 OTAs, two mini camps, one more going today. What have been your biggest takeaways so far, if any?
Well, and again, I'm not going to read too much into it, but one of them is I think Isaiah Rodgers has really made an impact here and shown that, hey, that year off didn't make me just disappear and not be a good player anymore. We knew that Cooper DeJean could be moved just about anywhere. We've seen him mostly in the slot. That's very interesting how they're going to use him. The cornerback competition overall, I think, is going to be the most interesting thing in training camp. I think that this is not necessarily saying, but something that Jeff Stoutland said. He talked about his 5-wheel drive, which told me that Tyler Steen has a job to lose. It's interesting, somewhat interesting that Becton has played left guard this week and Landon Dickerson's absent. But would that have happened if Landon Dickerson had shown up, had been able to be here? So I don't want to read too much into that. But those are off the top of my head. Those are some things I would say that have.
Brandon set off some fire alarms yesterday with his comments about last year's coaching staff, and I know you were still doing the Giants in training camp, and he came in. I find it interesting from this perspective. I want to throw this at you, Brookie, and get your thoughts. Sean Desai was a direct disciple of Vic Fangio, and I thought it was interesting. One of the things, and I asked Evan White about it yesterday, was Vic said, "I like to throw a lot at the players early and sort of whittle it back from that perspective, which is not what teams usually do." And Devin talked about it with Todd Bowles, very good defensive coordinator. You perfect something and you move on, and it sort of goes in the other direction. So I bring that up to bring this up, to stick with me. Sean did the exact same thing, and everybody questioned it. And everybody's like, what is this guy doing? James Bradbury in the slot. What is some of this craziness? And Vic does it. We see Quinyon Mitchell as a dime linebacker, and everybody goes, all right, let's see. And everything's working out well. Just the reputation of Vic Fangio versus a young coach, I think, is going to make the Eagles better.
I was thinking about this as I made my long drive home yesterday because of what Brandon said. That obviously brought Sean Desai into question. Yeah. The thing you always wonder about, and this is the difference, I'm sure Sean Desai has a great defensive mind that's very similar to Vic Fangio. He obviously doesn't have the cachet that Vic has built up over all these years. The question becomes when somebody's put into that position, and this was the second time he's been in position, but neither time lasted very long. And this is what Brandon was alluding to, that he's just not the kind of communicator you need to be in order to run a defense, or you can maybe coach position players, and the league is filled with guys who are great position coaches who didn't succeed either as a head coach or even a coordinator because of their communication skills. It's such an important part of things. I have a brother-in-law who's a high school football coach, been for 34 years, and we often talk about how, you can know as much as you want, but if you can't teach it, it doesn't matter what you know. So and it sounds like somewhere along the lines there was major communication breakdown in the Sean Desai system.
Yeah. That was the headliner of yesterday. Brandon coming out of nowhere. And by the way, I asked that question. It had nothing to do with Brandon just went off on a tangent.
Yes, I had asked the preceding question, which was about him going into his last year. So obviously Brandon wanted to get that out there because he could have gone off on his last year, and instead he decided this needs to be said.
Hey, God bless Brandon. 15th year will be his last year. Confirmed that again yesterday. And hey, maybe we're going to get that all year because hey, he's out the door. Maybe we're going to get this. We've always gotten tremendous honesty from Brandon Graham, and that's part of the greatness of him. So, BG making some news and playing well. We brought up Nolan Smith. Now, when we talk about the context, it's all 7-on-7. So to me, I can't judge anything on the offensive line, defensive front, running game, though even linebacker. Until the pads come on, I think Devin White's been very impressive. But we knew he was a great athlete. Until the pads come on, he has to deal with that play action, has to deal with the running game being involved. We have to see the instincts, all that kind of stuff.
The knock on him has always been the positive side. He's going to make plays. He's a great playmaker. But the negative side has always been, but when he's not making those plays, he's not always in the places he's supposed to be. So
exactly. But Nolan Smith is a guy, we've seen him a little bit because Vic uses that hook defender and he drops in coverage and they put him out there in the flat. But when they do go, in the rare times they've gone to 11-on-11, Brookie, he hasn't been involved that much. It's been Bryce Hop, obviously, Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham. And I'm starting to worry a little bit about Nolan Smith. Are you feeling the same way?
Again, I'm not. I gotta see training camp, and I wasn't there. I wasn't there on Tuesday, I guess, and that was the first time they've really run 11-on-11 this offseason. So I want to see, when they're going to these long periods of 11-on-11. I want to see training camp. I've seen plenty of guys who didn't flash in OTAs, and then all of a sudden, one of them I can remember, and we're going way back. Trent Cole's rookie year, you didn't really see much of, and I know Nolan's not a rookie anymore, but you didn't really see much of him during training camp and even the preseason. And then, as we started getting into the season, oh, look at this Trent Cole guy. Look at this Trent Cole guy. He's I don't want to really say either way on Nolan.
Yeah, Kelsey had a great quote about Trent Cole and Jason Peters at his first practice, and
he did.
I know
his retirement.
Yeah, exactly.
I might not make it. It's like I'm gonna need a bigger ship.
Yeah, well, I think he said a grizzly bear wrestling a panther, and I might not be able to handle.
Not make it in this league.
Yeah, and he did. So, Jason Kelsey not being back has been a big story from a leadership standpoint. Fletcher was there yesterday. By the way, Jalen Brunson was there yesterday. I'm not sure that excited Sixers fans, but the great Villanova product, he was there yesterday. Last day of school today, Brookie, and we'll get you out of here because I know you got to run down there. Is that a scary day for coaches? You've been covering this league for a long time. This is the time of the year where, all right, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, you're all left to your own devices, not only from the standpoint of the negative stuff, and you'll see it around the league. Hopefully it won't happen to the Eagles where guys get in trouble from a legal standpoint, but also just from, you got a lot of young people with a lot of money. And Dallas Goedert kind of talked about this, about the offseason work. The NFLPA is trying to move it around a little bit. We'll see how that shakes out. But these guys have to stay in shape and be ready. It's not like you can just turn it off. And with some guys, A.J. Brown's going to be in shape. You know that. But with some guys, you start to worry about it. And there's maturity issues. How much in your experience, how much do coaches worry about that stuff?
Yeah, I think you got to worry some, especially, you worry about it even on the bye week. I would go back to the Giants 2 years ago. The Giants were in the midst of an unexpectedly good season. They get to the bye week, and Xavier McKinney goes, and I'm not even sure, I don't think but he goes on a vacation to Cabo, and he goes out on one of those SUV type things, and this thing tips over and he breaks like 3 fingers in his hands and misses like the next 6 weeks. The Giants lose like 4 of their next 6 games. Never quite the same after that. And I'm sure it was just an accident, but he's doing something that he contractually shouldn't be doing. but just trying to get away and enjoying the time. But now you're talking about 6 weeks. Now they're, the league and the NFLPA are talking about, well, if you're going to go to 18 games, how you're going to make training camp and all, and should we just have a continuous training camp and no OTAs, and Brandon Graham was who doesn't have to really worry about it. But he was like, I would hate that not having my 4th of July and my.
Well, I think the guys who have kids would hate it,
right? Because
you're
taking their summer away. It's their, I think as sports writers we would hate it.
I would definitely hate it.
Because you get that. There's not many breaks. The NFL has figured out a way to make themselves 365. But there is at least a 5-week break from today,
and it is a grind. Even people talk about how easy it is compared to 2-a-days, and they're right, but it's still a grind when it starts in July. Even for us, Brookie, it's brutal. Man.
It's a grind. It was an unbelievable grind when it was 2-a-days. I used, predates me, but they used to talk about Dick Vermeil's training camps, and back then they were playing
6 preseason games.
Preseason. Could you imagine 6 preseason games? Oh God, we might.
That's unbelievable.
But the thing about preseason games, then they were actually playing guys, but it was, I think we would go insane with 6 preseason games.
Oh my God,
I can't even imagine that.
I go insane with 2.
2 or 3.
I go. We're in Baltimore for the preseason last year. That's where Zach got hurt, and the big pick 6 by Eli Ricks. Even that was brutal. Right. Preseason football, not great. All right, Brookie, get out of here. Run down there. Don't speed though. You'll make it.
You can speed on the Atlantic City Expressway.
The great Bob Brookover. Make sure you read him at nj.com. Does a tremendous job covering this team. Vast amount of knowledge, both historically and understanding the team now. So that's always valuable. Make sure you read him at nj.com with our buddies Chris Franklin, Caden Steele as well. And I'll see you down there, Brookie. He's already bailed out. I got to bail out soon, but we still got some stuff to talk about, Xander, closing the show.
Yeah. Do you want to, what is your schedule, Johnny Mac? Do you have to go?
No, I can hang out today. I'm closer than Brookie. So, I'm just going to bail as soon as the show is over. My hopefully commute, everything's dependent on traffic, but hopefully will not be that bad.
Yeah. So let's take one more time out then, Johnny Mac, and we'll come back. We have about 20 minutes left to go on this Thursday edition of Birds 365. Last day of school, as you called it, which I didn't pick up on the reference right away. My bad on that one.
School's out for summer. Yeah, Alice Cooper for old school rock fans.
Yeah, so we'll take one more commercial break. We'll come back and we will wrap up this Thursday edition of Birds 365 before Johnny Mac heads back down to NovaCare Complex to get another day of intel. So we'll have another Good Friday edition of Birds 365 tomorrow. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Stay tuned. One more segment coming up, Birds 365.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.